So if you look at your results, it will tell you exactly where your roadblocks are, but most people don't know how to see them. Hence why they keep repeating the same patterns and keep having the same roadblocks. Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Michael Mojo. I'm the founder of Mojo Human Performance Institute, where we focus on business, mindset, and lifestyle hacking for driven mofos. And the reason why I do these episodes is that most people will waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them. Let's talk today about one of my favorite quotes from I think probably one of the world's most famous psychiatrists, Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung said that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. Now, what he meant by that was that most people in life have a whole bunch of very predictable patterns that they keep playing out that keep them stuck, yet they're unaware of them. Now, it's easy to see other people's shit than it is to see your own shit, and I'm sure you're very aware of that. And I'm sure that it's quite easy to point out other people's problems and their patterns, and you can give other people advice. But when it comes to our own advice, most people really struggle with taking it or even thinking through it for long enough and actually coming up with a strategy that helps them to overcome whatever barrier, limiting belief that they have, stories from their past that keep them stuck, meanings that they keep associating with things, actions or behaviors. You know, we could call these habits, we could call these self-destructive behaviors, we could call these self-sabotage patterns, we could call them procrastination, whatever you want to call it. But most people keep putting these barriers and these obstacles in front of themselves without actually realizing that they're putting these barriers and obstacles in front of themselves. And normally what I see is that they'll say things like, you know, I'm on top of it now. Or they'll say, everything's changed, this time it's different. And normally it's not. Normally what will happen is that they have unconscious motives to keep getting themselves stuck. So this happened to me years ago where I didn't realize it, but normally what happened was when I would fuck up things in my own life, my natural tendency was to go and learn. Now, I love learning, but I didn't realize that when everything was going well, I wouldn't learn. I would just go and implement. So I would go get shit done. I would work really, really hard. I would just keep working and working and working. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like everything would fall apart. As in the business would have problems, would have cash flow restraints. And then I would sit there and go, shit, what's going on? Why has this happened? And then I would think that it was all these other things outside of myself. What I didn't realize was I was unconsciously setting myself up to fail so that it pushed me back to my higher value of learning. Because the longer that I would go on or the more that I would go on without learning, the more unfulfilled I became. And so I had these unconscious self-sabotage patterns or these sabotage patterns, which would force me to go back to what I really love to do, which was to learn and to grow. And then when I would learn and grow, I would go back out and teach. When I would teach, we would start making money again. The business would start working because I'd start training, developing staff. Then as the business started cranking again, I noticed that I would start to get pulled into doing more stuff that was outside of my highest values. I would get caught up in the day-to-day operations of the business, problem solving, and a whole bunch of other shit that would happen. And then 3 to 4 months later, I would naturally start to self-sabotage everything again and did not even realize it. I was not even aware that I was doing it. And it was me that was doing it. Until I became aware of that, I wasn't able to overcome it and move forward beyond it. And it took a lot of work for me to crack those patterns. But that's where I discovered Carl Jung's quote. And it was just so beautiful that, you know, and it's so obvious that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. You know, the majority of the daily actions and patterns that you have are unconscious. I mean, you don't think about breathing right now. Most people don't think about going to the bathroom. Most people don't think, you know, even when they're driving the car, they're not thinking, they're not consciously thinking, you know, I better change gears. I better flick on the indicator. Oh, there's a car there. I better not do that. Most people are just in autopilot. And so the majority of their thoughts throughout the day are just on autopilot. The majority of most people's actions are on autopilot. They're just very predictable. You know, if someone loves going to the gym, they'll go to the gym and that's very predictable. The majority of their decisions to go to the gym will just be unconscious. So most people don't even realize that they're doing this. When you look at your emotions, most people's emotions are unconscious. So, you know, at our recent Thrive Time event, I asked everybody who in here has a go-to emotion or just a default mode. That's what I call it, the default mode, where when you're under stress or when you're afraid, you have a certain emotion that will come up. Now, some people, when they're afraid, they laugh and they giggle. When some people are afraid, they get angry. When some people are afraid, they just create stress. When some people are afraid or have fear or they're worried about something, they will just get frustrated. Some people get sad. So everybody has these default mechanisms that they just drop back into and they don't even think about it. It just automatically happens. It's almost an autopilot. So, you know, until someone becomes really aware of those patterns and they really think through, shit, this is the 3rd or 4th time that this has happened in a row. Maybe it's me. and let's have a look into my psychology or my psyche, and let's figure out what I'm doing here and what my role is that I'm playing here. Until someone asks that, they're not going to crack that pattern. And most people will keep blaming, complaining, justifying, making excuses, and they keep reinforcing these patterns of behavior. And so nothing changes. And it will make them feel good in the moment. So really, excuses are just immediate gratifying. So if I'm running late, I can just say, oh, I'm sorry for running late. Cars were getting in the way. Not the fact that I left late. I left late and I was running late before I even left home, and I was stressed. And then I got caught in traffic, and that's what fucked me. If I'd left half an hour early, I would have been 15 minutes early. But now I'm 15 minutes late because I left on time and I got caught in 15 minutes worth of traffic. So because someone can't admit that to themselves and they try and justify their position or they make up excuses, then they're normally bound to repeat it. So the more someone makes up excuses, the more they're bound to repeat the pattern. And it's immediate gratifying. Okay, it's not my fault. It's something else outside of me. It's somebody else's fault. And so they lose control. Every time someone makes an excuse or a criticism or a judgment, or they reinforce a story about something that's outside of themselves, they can never change it, because you can't change other people. You can influence them to change, but they're in control of their own change, just like you're in control of your own change. And so for most of our society, they keep justifying their position. They justify why they're not where they want to be. They justify why they don't have the money, why they don't have the time, why business isn't working as well as what they wanted, why their life isn't where they wanted. They justify why next year's going to be different, why next week's going to be different, why next month's going to be different. But the truth is that they're just going to keep repeating the same patterns, because these are unconscious behaviors that they will keep reinforcing over and over and over again, and nothing will change. Because the one thing that they can change, which is themselves, they tend to not blame, or they tend to not look into enough to then be able to change. And so nothing will change. And we've all got those friends who keep dating the same girl or the same guy. They just have a different name and a different haircut. And every relationship they say, this one's going to be different. This is the person, I guarantee this is the one person. But you know that their pattern of behavior is, for the last 20 years that you've known them, they've always had a shit dating record. And if you had to put all your money on whether it's going to work or not work, you'd probably guarantee that it's not going to work. And there are lots of people out there who start businesses and crash businesses into the ground. There are a lot of people out there who make money and then are always broke. I mean, if you just have a look into a lot of the trade-based businesses, if you have a look into mining, if you have a look into most people's lives, they go to work every week and they make all this money, yet every week they live week to week, or they're broke, or rarely do they get ahead financially, or they get ahead for 6 months and then they fuck it all up again. It's not that they want to do that, and it's not to blame anybody. And I don't want anyone to think that, this is blaming people, because it's not. It's hopefully just making people aware that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And normally it's our unconscious patterns, the things that we're unaware of, that normally cause the biggest issues in most people's lives. But every time someone blames, complains, and justifies, they're more likely to reinforce that same pattern of behavior again, because they're pushing the responsibility outside of themselves. So therefore, they can't change it. So I just wanted to come to you with this episode because it's something to think about. I would really appreciate it if everyone, or, it's something that I would recommend, is that you spend a little bit of time and you really, really, really think about what are those patterns that I keep repeating, and maybe even spend a little bit of time and journal or write down your thoughts around that question. What do I keep repeating? What are the patterns of behavior? What cycles do I have that happen every 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 2 to 3 years that are very predictable? Now, some people have a 3-year relationship cycle where they keep getting into relationships, but none last beyond 3 years. That's probably a 3-year cycle. Some people have a 3-month cycle where they just get ahead financially, and then every 3 months, the bills just crank up again, and then bang, they're back to being broke again and struggling and living week to week. These are very predictable patterns. I've helped tens of thousands of people over the years break these patterns. But for most people, they just think that it's outside of my control. It's not me. It's just the bills. The bills just came in and that's why I'm broke again. Maybe, but maybe the bills are a self-sabotage pattern that is unconscious that you're completely unaware of, and you keep putting yourself into this situation. I would say that that's more likely, but it's the one that most people don't want to admit to themselves because it's very uncomfortable to admit that. So maybe have a little bit of time, think through that question, really think about your cycles and what they are. And then ask yourself the question, what tools and what strategies do I have to break those patterns? Now, if you've got some tools and you've got some strategies, ask yourself, why then, if I have those strategies or I have those tools, aren't I using them? Or are those tools and are those strategies really effective, and are they really working? Or do I need something else? Do I need to learn something different? Because there are a lot of people out there who say, I know what to do, yet they just don't do it. Then the question becomes, why aren't you doing it? What's getting in the way? Because that's the barrier and that's the obstacle, and maybe that's the unconscious pattern. For other people, They might have read a book or they might have done something and they've got a whole bunch of tools and they've been using them for years, but they're still not working. I know plenty of people who go to all these spirituality workshops and stuff like that. No offense, because I've done a lot of them and I've traveled all around the world to study with different speakers in spirituality, New Age and all that sort of stuff, and the top motivation speakers and all that. And a lot of people out there, are quite happy to say all the affirmations like, I am happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I am wealthy, I'm rich, I'm abundant. Yet they consistently have financial struggles. So if they're honest with themselves, the tools that they have aren't working. Now, once they realize that, then they can either go and get better tools or refine those tools. So I'm not saying that affirmations don't work. I'm just saying that the way that most people learn affirmations don't work. And so it's making sure that maybe you've got the wrong tool, or maybe you've got a good tool, but just not using it effectively because it was taught wrong, or maybe you're just using it wrong. I'm not sure. So run through, ask yourself those questions. I really hope that helps driven mofos. These are common things that most people get stuck on. But remember, Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychiatrists and one of the greatest thinkers in the area of human behavior, said that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. And the majority of your decision making and the majority of your thoughts are unconscious. And until you work on them and work through them, you'll keep repeating the same behaviors, the same thoughts, the same emotions, and the same perceptions, and you'll keep reinforcing them over and over and over again. It will create a feedback loop. Most people are unaware of it because some of these loops are a month long, some of them are 6 months, some of them are a year long, some of them are 2 years, some of them are 5 years, some of them are 10 years long. I've worked with people who have 10-year cycles, who have built really, really successful businesses over a 10-year period and have made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and then ended up bankrupt, and they've done it 2 to 3 times. So it's a really obvious cycle that they have. They just don't understand why they do it or what they do. And until you're aware of those patterns, then you can't change them. Anyway, Driven Mofos, I hope that this helps. Thank you to everybody out there as well who has been sharing this podcast. I know there have been a lot of you who have been tagging me lately on social media. I really do appreciate it. If you could share this more with your friends, with your family, I'm really hoping to get this up to around 5,000 episodes per month. We're getting close to it now, but the more people that can share this, the more we can keep cranking it up to get to 5,000 per week. So I think we're close. I think we're at about 4,200 a week. So if you can, please share this with your friends, with your family, post it on your socials. All you need to do is screenshot it on your phone or your mobile device, or screenshot yourself listening to it, and then just share the links with your friends and with your family, or tell people about it while you're on the work site, or tell your friends and family about it, and just get them to listen. The more people that we can get this out to, the more I can keep helping people crush it. I really do believe that we are going to go into some financial hardship. I don't think we will. I don't think this community will. But I think as far as an economy goes, it does look like we're heading into a recession if we haven't already. And I do think that things are going to get a lot tougher over the next 12 to 24 months. I think we're probably not quite there yet, but I would love it if this whole community was primed, pumped, and ready to take advantage of that situation and be at the forefront where you're crushing it and creating massive amounts of growth while everyone else is just running for scraps. And the way that we do that is you've got to put in the work first in order to be ready for those moments and for those opportunities. And I really believe that this podcast is hopefully helping people to do that. So please share it more with more friends, more family, tag me in socials, add it on your Facebook, your Instagram, all that stuff. It makes a massive, massive difference. And for every person that you do that to, for every time you share it, hopefully there's one new person that we can help as well. And all they've got to do is take away one new thing and you've helped that person to grow. So anyway, Driven Mofos, I really do appreciate all of you out there who is sharing this with your friends and your family. Let's get this to 5,000 episodes per week. I'm pumped for it, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care, Driven Mofos. Have a great day. Keep crushing it.